I turned 37 last week, and in this video, I want to go over 7 things that I wish I knew going into my 30s 7 years ago. I hope some of this resonates with you, or maybe you are going through it just like I was in this decade, and I hope that this helps and makes you feel less alone. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Number one, I learned that suppressing things will catch up with you, and when it does, if you have been suppressing it for years and years and years, it will all blow up in your face and it will all come out, whether it's in the form of extreme exhaustion, illness, or it's just that one tipping point that wasn't even that big of a deal, but it just tipped you over the edge due to the bigger picture. Throughout my whole life, there was a lot that I had been suppressing, a lot of emotions, a lot of grief, a lot of resentment. And the resentment kept piling up, piling up, piling up. There was this one tipping point I had a few years ago where that was it. There was no going back. It all came out, but I'm so happy that it did because it literally was the turning point and the pivot for this new era of my life. So my recommendation would be to process your emotions as they come. Cry it out, talk to a friend, go to therapy, pray, do what you need to do to process emotions, whether it's anger, resentment, grief, or whatever it is. Try to process it as it happens because the more you suppress, your body holds on to those emotions and it will show up as pain or illness or like a random explosion that you just have one day where you can no longer hold back. Number two, I wish I had been prepared for all these body aches that I now have. I've always been very active pretty much my entire life. I love exercising, I love boxing and running and lifting. I love all of it. I'm very big on holistic health and wellness. From being able to do all these crazy things in my 20s to then transitioning into my 30s and having like lower back pain and just random aches and pains in my body as I'm still doing some of these exercises was a big wake-up call. And I always heard people kind of joke about it like, oh, wait till you're in your 30s or wait till you're in your 40s and things will start to hurt. But I really thought that that wasn't applicable to me because I was always so active. But the big mistakes I made was not focusing enough on recovery and doing things like stretching, hydration, eating properly. I mean, I always ate like a pretty healthy diet, but not to the extent that I do now. And so I wish I knew back then to definitely stretch more and also to give myself grace and time. I think back in the day, I would even do workout, like really intense HIIT workouts back to back, and it just wasn't enough time for my body to fully recover. Now I allow myself a day or two in between intense workouts just to make sure I can recover fully. But yeah, I definitely wish I'd stretched more and done things like yoga more that focuses on like deep stretching and whatnot. Number three, I wish I had realized early on that it's okay to have boundaries. Again, I think in my 20s, I was a big people pleaser and I always tried to be the good girl and do what everyone wanted me to do, act a certain way, behave a certain way. And I let people insult me and talk down to me. And I wish I had realized back then that it was okay to stand up for myself. The only reason I didn't back then was because culturally I was always taught to respect your elders and whatnot, and don't talk back. I do agree with those things, but I think there is a way to respectfully respond back in a way that is respectful to elders or the other person, but also respectful to yourself. I think that because I just never said anything to anybody, people thought that they could say and do whatever they wanted to me. And as I transitioned into my 30s, that all stopped. It was like an instant switch went off. And again, I don't know if this has something to do with the fact that once you turn, I think 30 or 31, that's when your prefrontal cortex is fully developed. So I don't know if that also had to do with it, but I just felt like I could see and think so much clearer and see things for what they were. And it wasn't until I got into my 30s where I was like, you know what, this person's behavior is not acceptable. They are being extremely disrespectful to me, and I no longer have to put up with that. So you can either conform and respect me in return as well, or you don't get to be a part of my life. And that's kind of something that I've been trying to stick to in the last 7 years is implementing boundaries and holding true to them because it's been a way for me to respect myself. And I think that's one of the most high vibration, like high value things that a woman can do is to respect herself and stand up for herself when she's being disrespected. Number four, I wish I had started lifting weights a little bit earlier in life. I was big on the cardio and kickboxing does build some muscle, but not in the way that lifting actual heavy weights at the gym or doing the weight machines does now. Weightlifting, I've learned, is so good for longevity, especially for women, and it helps to prevent things like osteoporosis and whatnot. I just wish that that was something I learned a little bit earlier and that I would have incorporated that into my workout routine more in my 20s instead of having to start it in my 30s when I now have to deal with lower back pain. Number five, I have really grown to learn and understand this concept of, in Islam, it's called rizq, and it means your sustenance. So a lot of times people refer to your sustenance in terms of things like money and wealth and, housing and just the big flashy luxurious things in life. But we are told that rizq or sustenance is also a reference to things like your spouse, children, your friendships, good quality conversations, traveling, a good book, knowledge, something of value that you learned that really resonated with you. These are all different forms of rizq or sustenance. And I never really truly understood the concept of rizq until now. And when times get rough, I truly am just able to take a step back and look around me and reflect and just think about how much rizq God truly has given me in my life, even the very little things. And it really allows me to just be more grateful and be more mindful of the things I do have instead of focusing on what I don't have and just looking at the overall big picture. And in doing so, it really has allowed me to turn around some of the bad days that I've had. Even till this day, obviously, we all have bad days all the time. And I really just try to take a step back for a moment and think about how grateful I am for all of these little and big things that God has given to me. And it just helps to reframe my mindset and put me in a better headspace for the rest of the day. Number 6, nobody told me that the identity that I knew myself as was going to be completely stripped away and thrown out, and that I was going to have to find a new identity. And this wasn't something that I actively chose to do. It was just a matter of 30s just feel like it's a very pivotal decade, and everything you have done and learned up until that point, then all of a sudden takes a pause, and it's a very reflective time. You're kind of just like, oh, what have I been doing my whole life? Do I really think that way? Or is that just what I was taught growing up because that's what was culturally or religiously accepted, right? Is that really how I feel? Or did society just prune me to make me feel that way? Do I really need to have these things to prove my status and worth in the community? Or is that just what the community has structured as normal? And so I think that in my 30s, I truly have had such a huge shift in mindset and in identity. And these also happened as a result of the fact that my experiences grew, right? I mean, all these crazy things happened in my early 30s, things such as my best friend's child passing away, my maternal aunt passing away, huge other life transitions for me, which I didn't know were coming or happening. And they really shaped me into who I am today, 7 years later. And that's something that I just didn't expect. And nobody really talks about it. The fact that you start to really question all of your values and beliefs because you realize that you only think that way because that's what you were taught growing up and that's all you were ever exposed to, maybe, right? And that now you're just shifting into this entire new identity. Sitting down here at 37 and looking back at who I was 7 years ago, I don't recognize myself. My mindset is completely different. My perspective on life is completely different. My values are completely different. I've also grown extremely close to my faith and to God in these last 7 years. And I think that also happened as a result of some of the hardship that I started going through early on in this decade. And I really just started leaning into faith and God as a way to heal and to help me in this unknown journey that I was going into. But yeah, the crazy thing is I, like, 29-year-old me would never even recognize 37-year-old me, which is completely wild. But that's not a bad thing. I spent a lot of time grieving my old self, but I've come to realize that despite having to go through all these hardships and these obstacles and all of these mind Fs, like all these mental mind Fs, I'm resilient and I'm so proud of myself. And there were times where I felt embarrassed or ashamed because I didn't know where I was going in life over the last several years. But I have become so mentally strong and resilient. And I think 29-year-old me would have broken given some of these experiences and circumstances. But here I am, and I truly am just so proud of myself. So moral of the story is, just because you're shifting into a new identity or a new person and you don't even recognize yourself, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. And it feels bad at times because it's uncomfortable, and growth only happens during discomfort. And number 7, I wish I had started investing in the stock market way earlier. Granted, I started investing in my late 20s, but I wish that it had been even earlier because now I have a little bit more catching up to do in my 30s, you know? But yeah, that's something I wish that I had learned about and gotten into a lot earlier, but that's why I want to help you, and I want to help women break that cycle once and for all, and to learn about investing and building long-term generational wealth, because it's so important for our nervous systems and for our peace of mind to have financial stability. So I hope this video resonated with you. It was very interesting for me to talk out loud about this. I think I had a couple of realizations in this video. It was not scripted at all, very raw. I actually did not even write down bullet points. I just came up with all this in my head. So it truly is very raw. And if you're about to enter your 30s or you are in your 30s, I wish that this may be the best decade of your life, and so on and so forth. I will catch you in the next video.